Okay, welcome along. Got our lovely ladies here today to talk Switzerland. So Destination Switzerland. Kathy and Yvonne, you guys were recently there and met up as well. So yes, I wanted to have some fresh experience of cost of living, transport, etc. And of course, you guys have come out of the sort of summer period, end of summer into the start of fall. So seasonally, I'd like to talk about that because my experience, not that I've ever house sat in Switzerland, but I have been there in there through winter, and we just did a sort of drive through, so I can add a bit of stuff on transport. But who would like to kick it off with? Who actually?
I'll go first only because I'll have to leave a bit early. We're meeting our homeowners today.
And you've only just left, haven't you?
We just left, and yeah. I think Yvonne did too, but she has much more experience, so I'll do my limited amount first because we were only there for about a week. And my best tip for Switzerland, cook at home. It's quite expensive. Maybe not for people from the US because the US dollar is a little bit stronger, but the Aussie dollar sucks pretty much everywhere in the world, but especially in Switzerland. We didn't actually even exchange any francs. We never even touched a Swiss franc the whole time we were there. We actually just used our credit card the entire time. Some places will take euro, but then you're actually paying more. And we only did that to buy the cinnamon ice cream that Yvonne recommended we try. So we paid in euros just to try our cinnamon ice cream. But everything else was, and pretty much everywhere takes credit card, except for the Vietnamese restaurant we wanted to get takeaway from. So we didn't do that. Other than that, that's, like I said, the biggest tip.
How did you get around? Like, because where did you come in from? From Germany or from France?
Yeah, so we came in by train from Germany. Actually, it's quite expensive to travel around as well. Like just to get from Lausanne to 𝗣𝗲𝗍, which is where we stayed, it's only less than an hour trip, and I think it cost us 22 francs, which is like over 30 Australian dollars.
Well, I mean, the UK is no different, really. I mean, when I was looking at the train from London to Swindon to go to the conference, they were wanting that sort of price.
Yeah, well, the UK, we rented a car for 6 weeks because we didn't want to train it there either. But yeah, I mean, if you can have a car like Yvonne did, that's probably the best way to get around if you're there for a long period of time. We did do the Lake Geneva ferry, which was pretty good. That cost us, I think, 35 francs each for a 2-hour trip around the lake, which was quite nice. But we didn't do a lot of other sightseeing other than just walking a lot around the lake.
And 𝗣𝗲𝗍 is on the lake as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a beautiful part. I didn't even know it was the headquarters for Nestlé until we got there. So yes, we bought chocolate.
Well, Yvonne, you went from the mountains to the lake and to the city and to the capital as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we started in, my son and I flew into Geneva from London, and so the flight was pretty inexpensive, but the train is more, definitely more expensive, and then it's even more expensive if you get in the wrong car. we sat down in first class and thought, wow, Switzerland really has some of the best transport. And then the guy came by and said, oh, you got second class tickets and you're in the first class car. I said, I'm not leaving. How much? So we paid the difference, which was I think 20 francs for the trip that we were doing. But we enjoyed it. The people are very friendly. We started in 𝗣𝗲𝗍 on the French side, and then we did like museums and castles, and we did not eat out a whole lot. It is very expensive. You can buy probably a week's worth of food for what you would eat out for 2 people for one meal. So.
And the groceries, even though they're expensive, they're not over the top. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on food. The groceries I didn't find were overly expensive.
I thought meat was much more expensive than in the US. but everything else was pretty comparable. The dollar to the franc was almost like
Pretty
equal.
similar.
Yeah, it's almost equal, but
And we
the
could afford
cost.
to buy wine, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so we started there, and then I went on to Bern. And
So that's the German side, the Bern?
Yeah, Bern would be the German side. And I just trained it everywhere. I did have my last sit, they offered a car, so I had a car for the 6 days I was there. And that was nice. And I actually drove through the mountains. I went back to my first house sit. I took my dog from my last house sit back to visit my first house sit, and the dogs played, and we got to hang out together and have a lunch and stuff. So that was really nice. But yeah, I didn't have to buy gas or anything. Thankfully, it was diesel, not gasoline. So they're like, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll take care of it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
did you take notice of the prices though?
I think they were somewhere around the 150 a liter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So,
about the same here, actually.
yeah, so it's a lot more than what is in the U.S. But yeah, so just drove around. Then I came back. My last sit was back on the French side in 𝗄𝗏. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But very nice folks. Yeah, everybody was very kind, and you can get everywhere by train. It's really, really easy. Groceries are usually within walking distance with no problem. I didn't stay like in a really remote village, but everything we stayed in, every place I stayed always had a pharmacy, a post office, and not always a grocery store, but the last one didn't have a grocery store right near there. I had to go into town. So
when you and your son did the video for the conference and you had the cowbells ringing in the background, you got to tell me, did you do The Hills Are Alive or not?
No, probably not. The Hills Are Alive.
He'd probably be going, what are you talking about, Mum?
He's exactly, yeah, because he was actually, that was his Nixon thing. I'm like, dude, what does that have to do with where we're at? He's like, no.
But that's the wrong country anyway. Hills Are Alive is Austria.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Something about the Alps though, isn't it? Like...
Yeah. So in between sits, my son and I had a couple of days. We went up into Interlaken, and we spent that was a very touristy area, but beautiful up there. It's the space between a couple of lakes, and we did a paraglide. We went paragliding and stayed a couple days in a bed and breakfast there. That was wonderful. You can take the train up. I went to visit, I think it's Lucerne. That's another great city. That's kind of more Italianish. So it has a little, I guess, it's just a neat walking city, pretty touristy, has a river that runs through, and you can see the Alps, very, very beautiful too.
What's the temperature? Is it rainy, or what's the weather like?
Switzerland, except, I'm sorry?
At this time, yeah, it's your time.
Yeah, I'm not there right now. My last week it was rainy though. My last maybe week and a half, 2 weeks, it was raining. So I'd say from the beginning of October, that was probably, the wettest weather I've had my whole trip.
We did have a couple of nice days though.
Yeah.
We had our picnic on the lake. It was a nice sunny day.
And it's not like real, pour. I didn't find it to be pour down rated except for my last day, but it was very comfortable. 50s to 70s is what it was the whole time I was in Switzerland.
Yeah, I think even just being, much sort of lower altitude here as well, but it's just known as being, this part of the world is like, it's the rainy season at the start of fall. And we didn't realize that when we said yes to this particular sit. So not only are we cleaning up the fall leaves, but we're dealing with them being super wet as well. And then having a big dog bringing wet paws in all the time, and raw floorboards, and it's a little bit hard to handle. But when I did the winter side of going up to Interlaken, which I still think is the best train trip I've ever done, and seeing that color of that lake that looks like what's it like a 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗂, like that real amazing aqua, like Lake Louise and stuff in Canada.
Yeah.
And then we did the little train because it was full on ski season up to Grindelwald. That was heaps of fun. It was so cool. Loved every minute of that.
Yeah. Learning the train system, it's not hard. The app 𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗍 is the app you can download. Just know that if there's something wrong with the train, get on the next one. No, don't like say, well, that train didn't leave. Like for me, we're in the States. If you were to do something like that and your train doesn't go, then you go and you redo your ticket. Well, they're like, why didn't you just get on the next train? You don't get any money back. So, I paid for my mistakes a couple of times, but that's how it works out. But they have, their stuff is like clockwork. When it leaves at 9 o'clock, the train is leaving at 9 o'clock.
Swiss watch.
Yeah, don't show up at 9 and try to, they're off. They're going to go. So.
All right, well, I'll talk about 2 other transport types because when we flew into Milan, it was a choice because it was a great fare. Plus, having said the most horrible no to Gavin and Jill about our walking the Swiss Alps with them after Nat had broken a toe and after we realised that we really couldn't afford to be offline for, over a month, we said no to it. And then this flight into Milan came up. And for some reason, I don't even know where it came from. I just looked up 𝗣𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗏, and there was a couple of 25-year-old French boys who'd gone to Milan for a weekend of partying, and they were driving back from Milan to, I thought it was just Geneva, but it was actually going to go just into the across the border into France to their hometown. But we booked the 𝗣𝗏𝗍𝗂𝗏 because it looked like the map that they were, or the route that they were going to take, was going to go through Mont Blanc and then sort of across the Alps and into Geneva. And I sort of said to Nat, well, it's roughly the same price as the Flixbus, but instead of just being on a bus going A to B, like generally speaking, these guys have said they've got time, they'll stop and take some photos, and we're like, this sounds really good. So Milan Airport is actually about 50 k's out of Milan City. And when we weighed up the cost of getting into Milan City, we're like, dope, so much for saving money. And the boys said they'd come and pick us up. So they drove us out to the airport, which probably going out of their way maybe 30 k's, like round sort of to do it. So they picked us up and we headed off. And when we get to this intersection leaving Italy, that was basically Mont Blanc that way and Grand Saint Bernard Pass that way, we started heading that way. We're like, oh my God, we're actually going to do the walk like that Gavin and Jill are doing that we're not doing. We're going to be driving what we would be walking. And it was end of July, beautiful, bright, sunny day, really actually quite hot in the car because it was dark car and stuff as well. But that drive, oh my word. One thing that I was really surprised about, though, in that particular drive is that the Italian side actually had kind of better safety rails. Like even though a lot of the safety guards were made from timber, there were a lot more on like all the corners, and it was a really, really nice drive up. And then we get into Switzerland. We're right at the top at the Saint Bernard Pass and super excited and taking photos and doing all that. And then we start heading down, and the Swiss side was like, holy crap, if you start looking too much out the window, you could be over on the edge. There were no guards, no anything. So it was a really fascinating drive down. But we saw heaps of the pilgrims sort of doing the walk. So we were like taking photos and stuff along the way. But yeah, what an amazing trip. We get into Geneva and had a bus booked for that evening to take us through to Paris. And I should have remembered, like when I was in Geneva years and years ago, we actually stayed a night in a hostel. And I think the area that we were in, I remember it being the French area, obviously, because it's Geneva, but it was like heaps of graffiti. And I remember being shocked by that. I sort of had this idea that all of Switzerland was pristine and beautiful and whatever. And it's like heaps of graffiti and sort of quite a bit of rubbish and stuff. So we get back into Geneva, and the Geneva bus station is really not that good. It's pretty crap. So there's nowhere to sit down, or not really anywhere to sit down. People are just hanging around outside. There's kind of like smell of urine around, and we're like, what the hell? But across the road, there's a couple of cafes, and you're only 1 block from the lake. So we did have a couple of hours to kill. So we just took it in turns. One of us would stand there with the luggage. The other one would go for a wander down to the lake, take photos, do all the stuff, come back, and then we'd go and sit in the cafe together. But yeah, catching the bus to get into Paris, it was an overnight bus. I would definitely recommend doing the train instead. Like, just pay for the train, don't do the bus. But the 𝗤𝗏𝗀𝗃, had we have known that these boys were actually going into France, like, because they'd sort of sectioned off their trip. It's probably my only disappointment with 𝗤𝗏𝗃 is unless you get a map out and start looking at, instead of just point A to point B, you've got to start looking at what's in between to try to actually just type in, okay, Milan to Geneva, or Milan to, like, if you type in Milan to Paris, then there may not be anybody doing that trip. So you kind of have to start to break it down to go, oh, who could get me to here, or who could get me to there. So that's probably the only annoying thing. It doesn't just give you kind of everybody who's going to be leaving Milan on that day, or leaving Geneva on that day, or whatever. But yeah, these boys said they've been doing it for a couple of years, like just doing little trips, through Switzerland and France and Italy, and just taking people with them. And has anybody else done a 𝗤𝗏𝗃 yet?
𝗤𝗏𝗃 2 years ago when we were in Europe, and we used it quite a few times actually. And now there's actually a 𝗤𝗏𝗃 bus. As well. Yeah,
it was the 𝗲𝗏𝗏. I saw that they've sort of taken over that.
It's 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗏. So 𝗲𝗏𝗏 isn't there anymore? Or?
Well, it's. I think they're kind of in that. It's 𝗲𝗏𝗏 and 𝗤𝗏𝗏 together. I don't know how they're working it. But.
The only thing that we found with 𝗤𝗏𝗃 is sometimes if it's not a big car and you got a lot of luggage, it might be a bit difficult. So you have to message them ahead to make sure that there's room for your luggage and everything.
Yeah. So my experience of Geneva most recently, the bus station wasn't good, but other than that, the going over the Alps is amazing.
Yeah. I didn't see the train station or the bus stations. I didn't use the buses very much. I don't think at all. But the train stations are clean. I thought that all the cities and towns were very clean. So it could have just been in the bigger cities. I find coming in here to Brussels to be kind of a shock after 2 months in Switzerland with the trash and stuff. It's a little different. Yeah.
You really have to get into the center of Brussels to kind of go, oh, that's what this is meant to be like. But then the outer suburbs are like,
Have you guys met up yet?
This week we've been waiting for the weather to turn nice, and it looks like it's coming nice now.
Yeah. So maybe this week will work.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Fiona, have you got any plans on motorhoming through outside of Spain?
Well, yes, but not as far as Switzerland, at least not on this trip. I'm booked up house sitting till the 23rd of December, which is not a good date to find another house sit. So then I'm going up to France. I'm in the north of Spain for that one, near Oviedo. And I'm going to go up to France, and I'm looking for house sits in France from January onwards. And then I've got to be back in Britain by May the 19th because the MOT is due on the motorhome.
Right. So no Switzerland,
no Switzerland on this occasion, because in the future, I mean, I'm not intending to sell this as long as it, lasts. It's quite old. Bless her. As long as she lasts, then I want to have more European trips. And yes, Switzerland is definitely a possibility.
And Bev, have you guys been to Switzerland?
Oh, no, we have not. However, our new son-in-law is part Swiss. So it's definitely on our itinerary. When we finish in Mexico in the end of March, we either go to South America or we're going to go to Europe. So we're kind of in between thinking about what we're going to do about that. I am curious, where do you find you get the most assignment offerings for Switzerland? which platform.
Where did you get all yours from, Yvonne? Because you did. How many did you do in total?
3. I did 3.
Mm.
The first one I got, I didn't find any, and no, I'm sorry. The first international one I booked was in Switzerland. It was on Trusted House Sitter, and then I booked 2 other house sits before I came over. One from Normador and one from Trusted House Sitter. And then when I was in country, I decided that I was going to take an extra couple of weeks before I went and meet back up with my son. And I got the last house sit also, and this one in Brussels from Trusted House Sitters also. So.
And where was yours from, Kathy?
Mine was Trusted House Sitters as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen, I mean, I've seen a couple on Nomador, but I guess when it's not something that you're looking for, it doesn't mean that they're not there, because I'm not a member of Trusted, but yeah, Nomador, obviously they get quite a lot of European sits come up on there, but we did apply for one. We applied for one, and we actually were supposed to go through to an interview until we realised that our dates were going to be all out. It was actually going to be in Lausanne. So confusing, Lausanne and Lucerne.
Yeah.
Don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I don't know if I pronounced any of them right. I finally got to the point, I remember walking the dog, and I had gotten over to the German side, and somebody walked by and I said, "Hola."
That's all right. I've been saying "see" instead of "we" while I'm here in French.
Yeah. It's like, what is going on? So, yeah, it's been fun.
Yes, I'm having a language issue at the moment because all the sits I've applied for in France so far have been French-speaking people. And I understand the French because I used to speak it fairly fluently, but I can't speak it. And so far I've been turned by everyone because of the language problem.
But with them, like as an interview, or just through writing?
No, this was through writing. I haven't got as far as the interview. They've all said that they want to have someone that they can communicate with freely because they're going to be so far away. So and they're French. I don't know if that would be the same issue in Switzerland or not.
I guess the thing with Switzerland, though, that they're either minimal tri-language, like they're not even bilingual in Switzerland, like they've all got at least 3 languages, even if it's not without English, there'd be Italian, German and French, but it's generally English as well, like they all just drop into it. What annoyed me in that cafe in Geneva is that as I stood there like looking at the menu, the French menu, the guy spoke to me directly in English, and I'm like, have I got a sign on me? Please at least speak to me in French first. Give me the chance.
I'm seriously hoping my French is going to come back in the 4 months that I'll be in France, but this is assuming I can stay there for 4 months because it depends on Brexit and things like that as well. But so yeah, when I send into like to the when I see there, and you guys probably already do this, but like for the one here, this is a lady in Brussels. She's actually from France, south of France, but she lives here in Brussels. But I always send my application in English, and then I translate and send a French version and ask them to pardon my French because I don't speak it very well, but here's the French version.
I have resources, yes.
Yeah, and that's how I think I've gotten a couple of sits, is that the last 2 is they just we appreciate that you tried that, that we can if we needed to communicate, like I had to communicate with a guy who does the washing machine, and we just used Google Translate, and then I was able to give the information to the homeowners about what he had said. So yeah, they were appreciative of that. But
maybe I should try that then.
Yeah, so write it in English and then copy that into Translate, and then copy the French part, and then send both of those, and just ask them to excuse your French because you don't speak it very well.
Okay.
Have you ever done that when you're looking at a listing on Nomador and it's in French and you hit the translate and you have a good giggle over the instead of it being, say, a balcony with a nice sunset view, it sort of turns out sun inside the balcony, where dog, it just I can't even think. Some of the ones that have really made us giggle though, like the translate thing, is all back to front.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess Switzerland's a small country.
It is. It's very worth it though.
Because we've got to go meet our homeowners. So we're in France at the moment. So
good.
We're doing fields.
Enjoy.
20-year-old cat.
Nice and easy.
All right.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, so I was going to say, being a small country, it's sort of like, other than looking at the map, kind of looking at areas that are must-haves, but I guess so many people are aware. Food-wise, though, one thing I did notice going over when we came over the Alps was, when was that, end of July? There was an apricot stand pretty much everywhere. So it was. Did you get any apricots? I think I even mentioned that to you, because there was like so many apricots in that part, and that was like heading towards 𝗣𝗲𝗍. So we were going that way.
No, they had an apricot tree at my last sit, and I got figs. I got fresh figs off the fig tree, which I've never personally have seen in the United States. Fresh figs, usually they're dry figs. So I ate the heck out of those. They were really good. Cheese, of course. Every area has its cheese and its way of, cooking the cheese or melting the cheese and what that means. So that's always something to try.
And how did you find the prices of the cheese? I mean, when we look at the supermarkets and stuff around here, I think they're incredibly cheap, but then it's like, what am I comparing it to? Kind of
thing. I found the food generally to be expensive, cheese included, but the thing that they have done in Switzerland that many of the countries have not is they make sure that the farmers have the money to have to be able to keep their farms and do their farming. So it's a big part of the tourist aspect of the country too. So people get paid more, and then the farmers get paid more, so it's just expensive. Yeah.
And chocolate?
So the cheese
and chocolate?
Chocolate, of course, is big. Yeah. I had more than my fair share of chocolate. And then, of course, all the different types of wines are very, my last place was the wine region. So I stayed in the cheese region in 𝗤𝗄𝗄, and then in Olan, it's all the hillsides are all wine vineyards. So
and then 𝗣𝗲𝗍, so you had the chocolate as well.
Yeah, I had the chocolate there.
The chocolate, the wine, and the cheese tour.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, yeah,
all house sitting.
Really cool. It's great. So it's very nice. What I enjoyed too is that there's a lot of people in Switzerland that are not from Switzerland. At least the ones that I met, even the neighbors, most folks that I met were not actually from Switzerland. So
wow.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that interesting too.
So
yeah. All right. Well, we'll finish it off there with Switzerland. Does anyone else want to talk about or have any other things to ask or chat about or want to know about? And you can give me some ideas for other topics if you like. So Bev, remember Naomi's communication chat? I've got to wait for the 7-in-7 conference. I've been trying to juggle dates to get her on to kind of expand on that further. So she had a really good presentation at the conference, didn't she?
Fizzled. Our Wi-Fi's better here, thank goodness. Now the rain and the mud isn't. We're like you are. We're on a farm, so we've got goats, horses, dogs, cats, chickens, and mud everywhere. So thank God the homeowners give us wellies.
I worked out the other day how to put my little slippers into a pair of, they're not wellies, they're just like the clog type of rubber shoes. And the bigger pair, I'm like, cool, I can wear my slippers inside, tuck my pants into my socks because I've got grass, and I've got to go hunting poos at the moment because there's so many leaves on the ground I can't actually see the poo. So, Poo
Well,
foster king.
I can see the horse poo for sure. I gotta go do that after this.
Dear.
That is one thing I like about the smaller dogs.
Smaller poo.
Smaller poo.
Yeah, the big horses have big poos.
Yeah.
Doesn't fit into a plastic bag.
Yeah.
Buckets and wheelbarrows.
I've actually got to try. I mean, if I don't see where he goes and I get out there to pick it up, sometimes it's hard to find because he will occasionally go back in for a bit of a eat. And it's like I've had that many dry reaches where either I catch him doing it or he burps and you smell it.
Oh, God. Ooh.
I've actually gagged twice. So.
What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, other than being a shit eater, yes, he is a flat coat retriever. But because they're really, really paranoid of him gaining weight, they've actually got him on a really strict diet, and I think it's caused him to be a food monger, like even to that point. So yeah.
Do you find him to be a little aggressive even because he's hungry?
No, he just he's actually.
I noticed
quite
that
dumb.
with one of the dogs that I had.
No, he's quite dumb.
He's what? Sorry.
Dumb. He's a bit silly. He just wants to play. He's still only 3, so he just wants to play all the time. But no, not aggressive. I don't think it's sort of that breed's nature either.
It's funny, Yvonne, I found one of our horses got a little aggressive. And I think it's the colder weather's coming in. And so I started feeding them hay. And then we contacted the homeowner. I said, does this feel right to you? And she said, yeah, they're getting hungry because they were stealing the hay from the goats. Yeah. And trying to break into the goats' pen. Crazy.
Yeah. When I upped and they didn't mind, we were walking him quite a bit on a daily basis, or walking her actually. And so we upped her food a bit, and it really helped her even with us, not that she was like aggressive, but she was aggressive with other dogs and just upping her food a bit really helped her, kind of calm down. So.
Yeah, we've given, they have allowed us to give him, little bits of dry bread, like say if it's the end of a baguette or something. So I've been saving sort of some of those and, but I don't know. They just seemed really strict about it. They were just like, it has to be exactly flat cup and no more at all. We don't want him gaining weight. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, that's tough.
But I think maybe that's the way to do it is like, if we did give him a little bit more than kind of every now and again, then just take him for a really good run.
Yeah. And that would help too with his, doing some other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, as long as I can watch him, we can avoid that happening. But when it's raining, you can't, sort of like have to let him out. So hopefully this week, no more rain. At least it looks like we're getting a little bit of sunshine out there now.
I think it's raining everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it poured here last night.
Yeah.
Absolutely threw it down, but it's actually quite nice now. Well, reasonably.
Well, you've got beautiful sunflowers.
Yeah, but
looks nice and sunny. Yeah, I know.
That was in the summer in the south of Spain.
That looks nice.
If anyone has any ideas about where to find house sits in France, I mean, I gathered 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀 was the best one. I mean, maybe I'm looking too far ahead. I mean, I'm only looking for January, which is that far ahead now. But there doesn't seem to be many anywhere.
I don't know, because time of the year, I guess. I haven't been in Europe this is our first time in about 3 years or something since we've been back here. But you would kind of assume that January See, it's hard because it's like after Christmas, after holiday periods, you know, they kind of have to get back, unless they're people that go away for the really long periods of time. You just sort of wonder, like, is it a time to travel?
Well, I mean, I've got my motorhome, but, you know, particularly at that time of year, it would actually be quite nice to be in a house some of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm talking about from the homeowner perspective. It's sort of like,
Exactly.
But I'm sure stuff will show up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping. There is one that's considering me because she's doubting between two of us. One who's Belgian and speaks fluent French, and me who knows about horses. And so she's trying to decide, but all the others have just said no because you don't speak French. So
I mean, Jesus, you should hear Nat. Like, Nat literally can speak, I don't know, lucky to speak 3 words, and she was actually laughing at me the other day. She said, oh, as we were leaving, you said hello. I said, no, I didn't. I said bonne journée, which is like, have a good day. And she's like, oh, is that what that means? So it's like, her French is literally like 3 words. And when you ask Nat, do you speak French? She says, oh, yeah, a little. I mean, it's that confidence element. And if you speak Spanish fluently, for God's sake, you can speak French.
Yeah. Well, I used to speak French fluently until I came to Spain. And when I went to Morocco, I managed with the French.
Oh.
Well, work it. Don't even go down that line that you don't speak French. I guarantee.
I'll have to more French than we do. Of any I think that's the best thing, because obviously if I'm only sending it in English, it looks like I can't speak French at all.
Well, it looks like you're not trying to, and if with the French just want you to put out a little bit of effort for their language.
Right.
And that's it. And then just shoot it off. Hey, shoot the translation with in French. Part of my French, I don't speak fluent, but this is the best. Here's a translation for you.
Yeah, I think the best thing for you is just to add to that. It's like, I did speak fluently. I
understand it.
I'm now more Spanish.
And you had no trouble in Morocco. I speak some French. I got along really well in
Morocco, but I managed.
That's fine. That's all you have to say. I managed to get along fine in Morocco.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, I'll do that from now on. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We need these tips.
We
That's
do.
right. That's right.
It's like the bed tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, ladies. And gent over in the background. Hello, John.
He is there, yes.
John's harem today.